my name's Ashley, and today we're going to be talking about conceptual and procedural knowledge. And before we get started, I just wanted to say both of these knowledges, even though they're very different, they kind of go hand in hand and are very important in classroom settings, and you need both conceptual knowledge and procedural knowledge. You can't, for a student really to excel, they can't just have one or the other. They need both, and they need them together so that they really are getting the most out of what they're learning. So let's get started. So the first knowledge is conceptual knowledge. This is what I drew. And conceptual knowledge is what you know about a subject. So it's what you've learned and what you've memorized. So such as, do you have these facts memorized, or do you might know that you might have a fact memorized that is a negative plus a negative is a positive, and that's a fact that you've learned in class. Another example is theory and concepts, or maybe memorizing a model such as where the human heart is, or how or where your eyes are. So conceptual is kind of memorizing what you've learned, and you have it all up here. And then that leads into procedural knowledge. So procedural knowledge, in contrast to conceptual knowledge, is taking the knowledge that you've learned and applying it. So such as, like I said before, a negative, you might have conceptually memorized that a negative plus a negative is a positive. However, if you're on a test and you see both of those negatives put together and you know that they make a positive, but you can't really work out the equation, then you don't know how to fully do it. So procedural is when you are fully know how to perform that problem or whatever you're doing. So procedural is knowing how to, for example, assemble something. So knowing how to put something back together. Such as with conceptual, you might have read a book about how you put something back together, and then procedural is doing it hands-on and really knowing how to put it back together. Another example is knowing how to work a problem. So like I said before, with the negative plus a negative is a positive, you might know conceptually that that's right when you get to a word problem or a math problem. Knowing how to actually do that problem with all the negatives involved, then you fully know how to do that math problem. And then another example is using vocab and using it correctly. So like I said, conceptually, one way for conceptual knowledge is knowing vocab and memorizing that vocab, so such as being able to write on a vocab test, writing down the definition of a word. But then the procedural understanding of that would be using that word in your actual real life. So saying like, I'm so flabbergasted. You might know the definition, but then when you write an essay, if you use it correctly, then you have a procedural understanding of it. And like I said before, both of these knowledges are equally as important in the classroom. They're just very different. And with conceptual knowledge, so one way that you would learn that is through textbooks or lectures or flashcards. Those are types of styles that teach memorization. And then procedural would be more class discussion or working hands-on with a model or assembling something or working out a math problem and actually knowing how to do it, even though you might, so you know the steps and then how to proceed with that problem. So yes, but both of these are very different, but for a child and a student to really do well in school, each knowledge is equally as important, and like I said before, they go hand in hand and ensure that a kid is really understanding what they're learning in school. Thank you.